Before we get into today's episode, I've created a short questionnaire that will help me get to know you better. Those that fill out the questionnaire will get entered into a draw to win an Amazon gift card. So there's a link in the description for the episode. Click it, fill out the questionnaire, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Now for today's episode. This is the Michael Brian Show. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. And I am joined with DRMAGDN. So he's a drummer and he also mixes things like DJ and mixing at the same time. So thanks for joining me. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm really stoked. This is awesome.
So how did you actually dive into drumming plus because you do some kind of DJing thing with it as well. So what possessed you to combine the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I wound up getting a call back in the day. I've been a session drummer in New York City. I produced a lot of records for a lot of artists, and then also started music directing a lot of artists, band leading, and all that. I got a call to drum with a major pop star. His name was Out of Sight. He was on Warner Brothers Records, and the music director guy calls me and he goes, "Hey man, I need you to be my cyborg drummer." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I got you. Whatever you need." He's like, but what's that? What is it?" He's like, "All right, I need you to run tracks. I need you to basically DJ and drum. I need you to sing back up and hype the crowd and make sure the band sounds great on stage, band lead and everything on the tours." We did Lollapalooza, we did Bamboozle Fest. We toured with 303 and Gym Class Heroes. Really great tours. A lot of poppy, rocky, dance poppy kind of stuff. And as I got more and more into it, I wound up actually noticing a lot of people were seeing me juggle all those balls back there more than maybe like the artists and the rest of the guys on stage. I was like, you know what? I'll cut out the middleman. I'll just do the thing myself as Drumageddon, and I'll just get singers from The Voice and American Idol, friends of mine, throw them on tracks, and I'll just start touring myself. And now I'm on BMG Records, signed to a major label, and here I am.
Now you've done some things in public as well. You've taken your skill that you have is quite clearly a skill. You've taken that and I've gone public with it. Like I've seen a couple of videos of you going through cities while doing your thing. So talk to us a bit about how that started and how it went. What did it take to put that together?
Well, that's actually the ultimate origin of the whole Drumageddon situation. I wound up, as I'm playing with a bunch of different people, I wound up actually recording at this really cool studio a buddy of mine owned in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York. A little outside. And I get to the studio, we're actually hanging out. It's like, man, you got to check out the roof. It's really cool. You can see New York City skyline. I'm walking up the steps and everything, and I'm looking and it looks kind of cyberpunky because it's like there's a bunch of graffiti everywhere, and then you get to the roof, there's graffiti, you see this amazing view. I'm like, man, I gotta do a drum solo up here or something. Like, yeah, that'd be great. What are we gonna do? I was like, you know what, I think I could probably play this entire building in one take, and we'll just follow me up the building like a lip dub, like the old lip dubs on YouTube. That whole groups of people come up. I was like, you know what, let me do this. I'll call it Drumageddon. I fully spelled it out. I did the first one and put it up on YouTube. It went viral. I was like, oh, crap, this is cool. Second one, I did across Times Square, got all the permits and all that. The third one I did was Queens, right in front of the big globe unisphere that was in Men in Black and everything. And I
Yeah.
battled myself and all that and everything. But then I realized after doing all that, it was really cool. It was super, super time consuming. I mean, we're talking like 6 months to plan some of those because I had a whole team of people helping me out with the whole thing. And then I had to stage and time everything out. And, like the Times Square shoot that we did took, I think they gave us, okay, it's like, all right, so I call up the New York mayor's office for the permits. And they're like, okay, so it's going to be $1 million for the permit. I'm like, what else you got? And he goes, all right, okay. I got a $65,000 permit. If you want a certain day and time and everything, all right, I can't really do $65,000, but I might be able to find some investors. Couldn't find investors. Like, all right, look, I really want to do this. What else can you do? It's like, well, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys went to Times Square early Sunday morning. and they had a 2 hour block. We can give you that 2 hour block for $200. I'm like, in, sign, bring me in. And then it downpoured literally up to almost the minute. We threw the drums up with the whole team of 15 people. I think it was 7 quick takes. We took take number 4. And then the minute we put the last thing in the van, it started pouring again. So it was like this real intense thing. But that's the beginning of the whole Drumageddon thing. Then I realized, okay, I need to have my own original music. I need to remix stuff myself. I need to do my own artist brand. And Drumageddon spelled out is so big. It's like too big to put on posters. So I just truncated a DRMAGDN. It's a little bit, Skrillexy looking. It's very EDM, which is what I do. And I realized I was actually Drumageddon. It wasn't a thing that I do. It's just a thing that I am. I'm just the crazy guy who's always doing crazy drum stuff. So that's the story.
I also know that like drumming takes a lot of coordination as well. Like I was stupid enough to try it when I was younger and I couldn't do it. I couldn't get my hands to work properly. My feet were all over the place. And yet I've seen people do DJing, mixing, and that takes a lot of like concentration and your hands have to move a certain way. The timing needs to be just right. And yet you're there doing both.
Okay, so I'll break this down for a lot of people too. So I do drum and DJ simultaneously at the exact same time. I never stop either. So the way that I do it is I on that same tour, the Lollapalooza, I did Warp Tour also, which is a big emo kind of fest. They did a dance stage the year that I was on. That was the stage I was on. So a bunch of DJs, dance pop artists. That was the guy I was playing with. And we wound up, basically checking out all the other acts on our stage, hanging out with them. They were all really cool. But on the van, on the bus and everything, they're kind of like, oh, yeah, these guys are just push and play as DJs. They don't have any talent, whatever. It's like, all right, okay, cool. And I'm just kind of going along with it. One day it clicked. I looked at these DJs and they were bringing 2 to 3 times the amount of people on in the crowd as we're on stage. We had a good
Right.
crowd,
Yeah.
but they were bringing 2 to 3 times, and then it clicked. It's not just band or artists on stage and then crowd. It's actually the guy on stage along with the crowd all enjoying the music that's being made, and their production skill behind the scenes is amazing, and they're just basically like a guy who's leading the party. And it clicked, and I was like, this is awesome. That's the reason why I got into music, is to actually have that synergy, the chemistry with the crowd. I got really excited. I wound up hanging out on the DJ bus more than my own bus. They gave me Ableton, they gave me a bunch of plugins, they gave me all their sample banks. They showed me how to make music and what to do on Ableton. And that's where I started to really get into this side of things. And I'm like, all right, this is the way that I'm actually headed. And it's more in depth than just pressing play and putting your hands up, right? But it is simpler, I would say, than some coordination with drumming and everything. But I've drummed for everybody at this point. I've played crazy gigs, the most complex music, easiest stuff. And I can basically do it in my sleep. So I can actually play with the one hand as I'm actually DJing with the others. But I have trigger pads that I set up so I never stop playing. So I don't have to put the sticks down and do the whole turntables. I have everything on trigger pads. So I'm able to fade in between tracks, keep on playing. I'm yelling into the mic, running around stage, whatever, and everything. So, but it's a really in-depth thing. It's really crazy, takes a lot of coordination, but it's also something that's really fun and it's very different. So I love doing it.
What were you like when you started then? Like I'm picturing like sticks flying everywhere, pressing the wrong buttons, timing's completely off. Like I'm picturing someone that's never really done it before, and it just being like a floppy sock on stage and it never working. So, what was it like when you started? Have you had any mishaps, any mistakes? Try to like humanize yourself a little because this is getting a bit silly now. So, like,
Oh
what
no,
was it
it
like when you were
is. It
learning
is.
it?
And actually, that's a really good point. So I've been doing it for, I guess, about, technically, if you look at it, about 10 years. The minute that Skrillex kind of hit the scene is when I started to really get into it. But I started to just kind of do it a little bit on the side at small clubs in New York and everything. It was basically around the pandemic that the Drumageddon thing really blew up to what it is. And then I started playing the bigger places and festivals and clubs. But when I started to get back into it, taking it seriously, I loaded the pads up. You know, they called me last minute. It was during the pandemic. I needed to fill in for another act. Quick, jump into the club. It's a full packed house. All right, so I jump in. I didn't get a chance to like write everything out and at least know what songs were going to be on what pads. So I literally played musical roulette. And I would literally go, oh crap, you know, and I would hit a pad. I had no idea what was on the pad. I'd go, oh crap, and you know, just start playing along with that, and then I'd fade into the next one. Next one was, and I couldn't, you know, when I was doing it that way, that's when the crowd would be like, oh, that's an interesting choice to go from that to that. And I'm like, I know, I didn't expect it either. But then as time went on, I got more organized with everything and I had a couple, you know, days to prepare. It got smoother and better, but a lot of the clubs in New York City, if you're playing like regular dance clubs or nightclubs or whatever, sometimes the crowd's right up on you. And we're talking crazy people, drunk people, you know. I had, you know, one guy continue to fall on the pads. And then the last time he fell on the pads, everything got unplugged. And I'm just sitting there going like, oh no. I literally just grab the mic and start screaming Seven Nation Army, which is da 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 da. And the crowd starts chanting it like a soccer or football match, right? And as I'm playing the drums still and I'm getting my tech to like, hey, we got to fix it. And then by the time they, you know, I was done with the tune, I was able to hit the next pad and keep it going, luckily. But you know, those are the things that you have to like, okay, this is still live, man. This is not canned. And people underestimate the ability to read a crowd. Like, oh yeah, DJing is easy, just play stuff people like. Man, I get like everyone holding up their phones, please play this, play this, play that. Sometimes it's too obscure, I can't play it. Sometimes it's a tune that's like, really? Do I have to play Dancing Queen? Really? You know, like whatever it is. Like, come on, Queen. Guys. Yeah, but those are things that happen all the time. So, and you just try to basically keep everyone happy, keep everyone dancing, moving, being excited and everything. And, you know, very intense. So yeah, that's the vibe.
Do you ever get the impression though that like you're thankful that they don't really know that it is music roulette? Like it all comes together in a weird and wonderful way. I get that, but then it's kind of thinking, yeah, but they don't know that it's all random, and I have no idea what it is. If I can carry it off well enough, no one will know.
Well, that was the first couple gigs, and then since then everything is completely sketched out. Where I basically have about 500 songs that I have loaded in, and I know where everything is now. So I basically go like, all right, so this crowd is really digging emo. So here comes Fall Out Boy, here comes Panic at the Disco, Paramore, whatever. Oh, this crowd loves the throwback 80s stuff. I'll do remixes of that stuff. But everything is now organized in categories, just like a real DJ. Those first couple gigs were really, really crazy, though. And the musical roulette was the first couple, but now it's been really locked in for years at this point, and people really dig it, and they're saying, you know, they haven't seen this kind of a thing before. So the best part is a lot, even to this day, like last week when I was playing, they're like, oh, you guys were great, you know. I'm like, it's just me, man. Who else are you seeing? Because I run around stage a lot and whatever, and they just look up. It's like, oh yeah, it looks like there's a bunch of guys. Oh, nope, God. Just me. Just Drumageddon.
So let's talk about the public things then. So you got your permits, you're figuring out, I imagine, the route you're going to take so that it all fits within one take or whatever the case is. Like, talk us through, because you mentioned 6 months of planning. So I imagine there's a lot that goes into that. I imagine you like frequent visits to the actual place that you want to record it, figuring out where everything is, visualizing it. But talk us through what the 6 months would look like.
Yeah, and so the inspiration behind those Drumageddon drum solos initially, before I did the drummer DJ project, which is my main thing now, this is all I do. That whole situation was, okay, my favorite drummer is Buddy Rich. He's a big jazz drummer from the 1940s. You know, he played with all the major acts of the time. One of the best drummers of all time, everyone agrees. he played the Muppet Show, back in the day. And, as he came out of his dressing room, which was the Muppets dressing room, he played the actual stage on the way up, the backstage onto stage and everything, and started soloing. I was like, that's so cool. And I look at myself, with the Drumageddon thing, or, the, drum solo thing. I look at myself as like a gritty reboot of something that Buddy Rich would have done if he lived long enough and had a crazy mohawk and came up in, today's day and age and everything. So that's how I visualize the whole thing. And the first one was, basically playing up an entire Brooklyn building in one take. I went up the steps, went up the elevator. Each time I get on the elevator, there's a different drum configuration that I had other people set up. So it looks like, wait, how did that change? And it's like, did he do a different take? No, it's all one continuous take. And that one day they couldn't open, I think it was the 6th floor. So I had to go up an extra bunch of flights of stairs. And let me tell you, like, I couldn't walk for, I don't know, a week and a half because there's so many steps I had to drum up
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
thing. And then, planned having, really good lighting, the golden hour, as they call it in film, to have the skyline behind me as I'm going crazy on the big kit. And then the other one was the Manhattan one, the Times Square one was the most intense. We only had that 2-hour window. So I had to hit those takes. I actually put a click in my in-ears and I made sure everything lined up to the click so I can stay on. I didn't last too long on any part. Like every part had to be quick enough so that it, can be watchable. The first video was 8.5 minutes. Second video was like 5.5. Third video was like 4, 3.5 or something on those three. But yeah, it took a lot of planning. I had a whole crew. I had, a bunch of friends and different actors and different people to come in. I had like a group of girls, show up and, I played on different items from their purses and everything. And whatever. It was just really fun. It was like it was like cheeky, viral video, early YouTube kind of stuff. And people dug it for the time. It was cool. But the real stuff is now obviously the Drumageddon brand, which is the drummer DJ situation.
So do people actually ask for your style as well? Like people come to you for the style, not just drumming, not just DJing, but they actually want you for your thing, for the mix of the two.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I just played a sold out show at Royal Albert Hall during the King's coronation weekend, which was crazy. But they brought me on as drum again, and they're like, "All right, so we need you to, do your thing." But it was me along with an entire Hungarian orchestra and a Hungarian famous piano player, and these guys, are amazing. And he was the headline. I'm the big, famous European. His name's Havachi, Havasi, unbelievable piano player. He wanted me to come in and do the thing. But the funny part is like, I'm getting on, I do all my stuff, and then we're interacting, we're having fun. It's the orchestra, really, really amazing. Crowd is loving it and everything. But in the in-ears, they only are speaking to each other for all the cues, like come up, do this, do that, and whatever in Hungarian. And then I'm the only guy who spoke English only. So that they would go like, Hungarian, Hungarian. And all of a sudden it's like, Charlie, get up, get up. What are you doing? I'm like, oh, shoot. And then go to the front of the stage and bow. Okay, cool. Come back. Okay, Charlie, we're done. You can get off stage now. I'm just like, all right, man. Yeah. Like,
Oh, wow.
you just, yeah. So that even at like a Royal Albert Hall, like there's always really funny things that go on. That's a fun one, but yeah, I mean, people call me to basically do this. And, I got signed to BMG Records, as I was saying. And when I got signed, they wind up right around the same time I got signed. They're the fourth biggest major label in the world. So it's like Sony, Warner Brothers, Universal, and then BMG. So BMG actually bought the rights to George Harrison's full catalog and George Harrison from the Beatles. And I love the Beatles. Who doesn't love the Beatles? But I love Something by the Beatles. It's my favorite Beatles song of all time. And they're like, yeah, you want to remix it? I'm like, yeah, so I'll remix it. It's like I call up my friend Michelle Ray, who's from The Voice, and I call up, some of my buddies who I basically put together a bunch of Grammy-winning musician friends of mine for an orchestra. and then I redid the track from scratch, produced everything from the ground up, and then I remixed it, with a girl singer basically, and gone viral on top of all the other ones. And I think I'm up to, I think it's about 25 million total plays and views. That
Wow.
track is up to 5 million on all the social platforms. I got like 700,000 verified followers, and I think it's about 100,000 that I hit every single live stream I do now. And this is all from basically during the shutdown event, pushing on digital, blowing up and having things go viral. And people like, what is this guy even doing? Like, he's drumming and he's DJing. It's like, I don't even get what I'm seeing. It's, you get, you guys are great,
You
you
must get that
know?
a lot, and you gotta sit there thinking, yeah, yeah, both my hands do amazing things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And my foot, I guess, I
Your
also like
foot
to
as well. Yeah.
play, I like to play standing and seated. A lot of the shows run and gun when I just have to throw stuff up for a festival or for a nightclub. I'll just usually take the smaller kit that I just basically play the standing the whole time. But yeah, the kit behind me is a massive kit that you can kind of see. You can look on the website and everything. You can see it there. But it's half seated, half standing. There's drums behind my head that I can play and everything, and jump and scream. And then there's a mic, and the pads and the DJ gear and everything are up there. But yeah, all of that. The Something remix came out really, really cool. A lot of really good press on that. Obviously, we're doing this show, which is freaking awesome. So thanks to Eileen and Jimmy for hooking this up, definitely. But yeah, got into AP News and Yahoo News, New York Daily News, Broadway World, all the big EDM outlets, and everyone in the press loved it. And I thought there was going to be more pushback for this version. And that pushback came on Facebook, of all places. A
Oh,
post I did kind of went viral, but it hit 45-year-olds to like 65-year-olds. I was looking at the analytics, and how dare you touch the Beatles? One guy just wrote the word blasphemy. So I said, hey, it's not necessarily everyone's cup of holy water, but it's for the younger generation. It's trying to bring the Beatles and George Harrison's legacy. And in the video, if you check out the music video, I went to every single place the Beatles went to when they first came to New York. I didn't even realize they came to New York as the very first place they landed. They flew into JFK, stayed at the Plaza Hotel, shows at Carnegie Hall, and then they did the iconic Ed Sullivan show. And that's all. I mean, I live there. I live on Christopher and right next to Bleecker. I'm in the West Village. I was like, I'll just go to all the places, build the music video around that. And you could actually see I have all the date and time stamps of all the places, and I'm there. And it was a really cool self Beatles tour I went on. And it's a really cool video because of that. It's like you see where they really came. And for the actual artwork, and I'll hold this up too, um, it's Abbey Road. So I literally, right on Christopher Street, right on 7th Ave, you actually can see I really shot that.
wow.
So Manish Gosalia and Alex Yarborough helped me basically comp the whole thing together. But I just did all four of the different, it's me with a keyboard, it's me with sticks and headphones, it's me with a drum, and then it's me with the pads that I DJ with. And this is literally 7th Ave. That's my street. I'm walking towards my apartment. And yeah, I really did the feat. This was during the winter too. So this was like 20, 30 degrees out Fahrenheit. I don't know what that would be Celsius, but it literally was freaking freezing. I put my real feet, I'm sure I communicable diseases from the from the New York City pavement and
Oh yeah.
everything. I don't
Yeah.
even know what I have, but yeah, I mean, did the real shot. That's a real comp of me. And we almost got run over a couple times. We didn't, so it was good. So
I mean, it sounds like you've had to get pretty good at thinking on your feet. And I know you put a lot of it down to preparation now, but it sounds like you still balance that out with quite a lot of thinking on your feet, handling whatever happens. Of like, okay, well, I can do this and I can do this. And then people are throwing things at you or they're leaning on your decks or whatever it is. And it just sounds like you're having to learn how to get pretty good at just going with it and still doing whatever it is with whatever you're given. It sounds like that's quite a task that you set yourself as well. It's kind of like, okay, well, I'll have to think on my feet now. I've got, especially with the Royal Albert Hall thing, where all of a sudden they translate to your last minute that you've got to dive on and do whatever it is and then run back again as if it's last minute. Why? Well, because they're all the Hungarian speaking first and you're last kind of thing. So you've got to
Yes.
rush
Yes.
and to fit it all in. So how do you handle that environment of being able to do things without a lot of preparation, or have some of your preparation taken away because things just happen on the day?
That's a really good question. So when I first got that call with the Warner Brothers artist to be the cyborg drummer, which is basically the start of the DRMAGDN live, thing, um, the minute that I got off the phone, I realized I always wanted to get into electronic drums and programming and all that at that and only produced and recorded acoustic instruments. I didn't really get into the programming until later on, which is after that and during that. So at that point, I said, yes, of course I'll do it. Great. I'll see you. I'll see you in a week for the very first rehearsals. Like, sounds great. I hang up the phone. I run to Guitar Center. I'm like, I have no electronic gear whatsoever. Crap. I went there. I bought everything. I didn't know what to buy. I'm like getting home, plugging things in wrong. I'm on YouTube. I spent the entire week and I didn't sleep at all. I finally got it working like the day of. I come to the rehearsal. They're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's get different sounds in this and that." Great. And I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And then I end up like getting it together just in time for the last rehearsal. Artist comes in, he's happy. We do a warm-up show at a college, and then we opened for Bon Jovi. That's the second show. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, please work, please work. The computer went down for some of the backing tracks. Not my fault. It
Wow.
was the other guy, who
Yeah.
was basically running that. And I had everything on the pads, basically backed up for individual sections. So in case anyone wants to do a part of a song multiple times, it loops. So I basically saved the show by playing every single part of all the rest of the songs because the thing, yeah, so you have to be able to back everything up. You have to know where everything is, be on top of it. But yeah, that's how my live career has gone this entire time. Like another time I played the Today Show, right? And I'm getting back from the NAMM show. I've got a bunch of endorsements and all that for Styx drum heads and drums and cymbals and all that stuff. Pisces, Pearl, Vic Firth, Evans, Roland, shout out to them. But I'm coming back, and I get a call like, hey, you need to music direct a band, put a whole band together for a Nickelodeon artist. It's a group of brothers who sound like the Jackson Five. They just won this big competition show, reality show, and we need you to do it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So I rush back and literally fly directly to the studio to just start doing it. And I got the tracks on my computer. I'm just like putting everything together, call my friends, we jump in. And then I also did a K-pop thing with 88 Rising. They're the K-pop collective, basically, of it's almost like the Wu-Tang Clan. And literally, they're playing MTV. They're doing the TRL. They rebooted TRL. They wanted me to music direct that one. They're in the air, and they're like, "Crap, we need a music director to help us run tracks and do everything, whatever." And they called another buddy of mine. He couldn't do it, and they called me, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And they're like, but we need you to auto tune all the vocals live. There's three vocalists. They only needed two vocalists actually being auto tuned. The other guy was like, oh, I'm fine. But two vocalists needed live auto tune. I have a computer that was set up for recording, not for live auto tuning. So I'm like, yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. I'm calling all my friends. Like, does anyone have a rig? Does it? Now you should be able to do. You figure out. I download a program that works with Pro Tools at the time. Literally get in my car, get into tunnel traffic, right? And I'm watching YouTube videos on how to use it. and I get to the first rehearsal and it worked. Hooray. And then I was on TV the next day, But it's
Oh,
like these
wow.
are the things that make you lose your hair, or at least make your hair stand up. You know what I mean? It's like,
Make your hair stand up. I like that. No,
but no, I mean, that's it.
yeah, it's almost like you don't actually plan. You just kind of do whatever it is. I mean, it seems like it's all kind of last minute too. Like you're having to get there and do it, and then you're hoping it works. I'm quite glad it did. But does it ever not work? Or is it purely kind of like, okay, let's all go in? Do you ever get a bit not complacent, but you think, well, it'd be last minute, but it'd be fine because it's always worked anyway. It'd be all kind of okay. Or do you still feel the anxiousness and the not knowing if it'll actually come together at the end?
Oh, I'm sure I've lost 20, 30 years of my life from all those exact things that I just mentioned. Definitely number one. But the one thing, and I'll be more general about what success is. It's, the viewpoint on success. I think this is a very important thing to convey to anybody is success is a thing that you are. It's who you are. It's not a thing that um it's not a bunch of steps that you have to do in a certain order in that whole thing. It's either are you successful overall or are you not successful? And when you zoom out from that entire perspective, what does a successful drummer, musician, DJ, artist or producer or music director need to do for whatever task you're being thrown into? And make sure you do that and you're prepared to do that better than anyone in whatever time you have. And then from there, everything else is a cherry on top. It's like, okay, so if you get a last minute call to fill in for some big artist or band or whatever, okay, learn all their music backwards and forwards, however the heck it is you need to do it. If you need to sneak an iPad up there with, little crib notes and the charts or whatever that no one sees, great. Just make sure you play the stuff perfectly. And then if things start to go wrong, have some contingency plans. They say the best chess players are the ones who think like 10 moves ahead. So that's generally the way that I always think. So yes, there's a lot of stress and craziness on some gigs. Sometimes gigs go really chill and easy and are awesome, and you could really enjoy them. But if a drum breaks, right? If a snare breaks, what do? I've got my backup. Great. Okay, if this floor tom breaks, that's not a big deal. I'll just use the other toms. If the kick drum breaks, I had one gig where I was playing a festival and the kick drum head broke. And the kick drum is a important part. It's the big bass hit of everything you're doing. So I'm playing and I'm able to go like, all right, I've got to now hit the floor tom every time I hit a kick drum. Instead, I'm telling my tech, well, it wasn't even tech, it was the other band's drummer. I'm like, hey man, can you come and help? And he's like, yeah, you sound great. It's like, no. Can you come over here? Nah, dude, you're sound come over. And he comes over, it's like, oh crap, your bass drum broke. And we didn't have any time. I'm literally playing the songs, right? And they pit stopped like a NASCAR. They took the one kick drum out, they stuck the kick drum in, and by the end of the song, when I needed to play the really fast double bass, I was able to hit the double bass just in time. These are the things that happen, but I've worked on my coordination enough and practiced enough to where I know how to play the songs with just hands or just my feet or whatever it is. So there is a lot of preparation, but I think of in terms of more binary of are you successful or are you not? And as long as you were successful, maybe you didn't feel as good about your playing that day or the song choices or whatever, but did the crowd have fun? Yes. Was the club owner or the festival owner happy? Yes. Did people really dig it online and follow you because of the live stream? Yes. Then it was a great gig. It was successful. And you could always beat yourself up. Oh, I could do. So you try to do better the next time, and each gig and each thing you do better. That's generally the vibe that I take on this stuff, and try to zoom out a little bit on it.
What kind of things do you do for your coordination? Again, you went through a lot of struggles early on, and you've got to be able to then cope with things as they come along, as you said, and having to be able to do all that live while someone is helping swap things out if they break and all of that kind of stuff. You're able to coordinate all of that and get the timing just about right. That must take a lot of concentration, coordination, moving your hands around, getting out of people's way if you need it, putting them back in at the right time, in the right place. What do you do for? You're going to say, well, I drum. That's enough coordination training I need. But
No.
what did you do anything else to help? Because you mentioned, successful drummers would probably do this. Successful drummers will probably have backups. If you're unsuccessful, it's probably because you don't have the backups, right? So it's having the ability to see yourself in that way, put yourself forward as someone that is successful and think, right, well, if I'm successful, what does that look like? I wonder if you do anything else for your coordination to help with all this.
Oh God, yeah. So if ever see the movie Whiplash, have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, no.
Okay. Okay, so it's basically like Full Metal Jacket for drummers, right? It's a teacher that's really angry and aggressive, and then it's a student who gets all bloody practicing in this whole thing. But that was kind of my upbringing. So I had teachers that were great, but they were really intense. And yes, I had things thrown at me. I had, yelling and screaming, in my ear and everything. And, I would go home defeated and that whole thing. And I was some, punk kid who thought he was really, really great at what I was doing. And I wasn't, I couldn't even hold the sticks. And I had to learn how to rehold the sticks, maybe 13 years into me actually having to do what it is I do. And then once you get down the technique and you get really solid, like an atomic bomb can be going off and I'll still keep time. I'm still able to play. It doesn't matter what's happening. I'm able to still do it because of the training of practicing, and the teachers that I had were so intense. I had a really great jazz teacher. I had a really great clinician rock kind of teacher. And then I studied with Tommy Igo, who did Lion King and played with Lauryn Hill, a really great session guy in New York. And between all of them, plus me just practicing my ass off and going nuts, got me really solid in just about everything drum wise. And then I applied that same work ethic to and the same work ethic to music directing. I would hang out with music directors and pick their brain, and I'll be like, all right, this and that, use that, do this, do that. Same thing with producing, and then mixing and mastering and everything, and then songwriting. And all of these things are the reason why it appears to be easier for me than other people. It was all the insane amount of prep work and practice, that got me to the place where I can actually do this pretty simply. But the other thing is, I try to be as efficient as possible. So I do always have that backup snare, because that snare is broken on a random gig from, before. Just like there are two kinds of people: the guy who has the external hard drive backup, and the guy who doesn't and hasn't had an entire, like, his entire life lost on a dead computer. It's like either there's a guy who did or didn't. That's it. It's like, and I've been the guy who lost everything, and now I'm the guy who always has everything backed up. No matter what, always try to be the Boy Scout in every single thing and be more prepared than everyone. And you'd be surprised, like even the top gigs, just like the Royal Albert Hall thing, they're like not used to me, having a drummer show up that early and be that prepared or whatever. No rehearsal, just jumping in and playing in, like a 2 hour show, and then doing my own thing, and then, doing all the stuff and the arrangements that they sent me. And it's just like, yeah, you just show up and you do it. Whereas a lot of people would need lots of practice and, let's sit down and like try to figure everything out. It's just, there's no time for that anymore, So I would say that the center of it is, again, if you want to be successful, look at yourself in the very future. If you snap your fingers and you're everything you ever wanted to be, oh, I want to be the best basketball player in the world, best football player in the world. All right, so you're you right here. What is the person who's the best? Oh, it's, Ronaldo, or it's, I don't know, Jordan, right? Whatever sport it is, it's that guy. Okay, what did he do? He just, every single day he would shoot those shots. Every single day he'd practice this, this, and this. And then you get yourself from where you are to where you want to get to. And you work backwards from the goal rather than being where you are and you set the goal to get to, that's way more difficult. I like to look at the goal itself as already being done in the future, and then I work backwards until I am where I am. And then it makes it way, way easier. And that's how I've done like all the producing, music, all the stuff, at a high level. That's the vibe.
So if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, or they wanted to be a world-class drummer, possibly DJ, but you never know, what would you suggest for them to get better at drumming outside of just practicing more? Do you have any specific exercises that you would do, any drills that you would follow? Help someone get better at drumming without just drumming all day, every day.
Yeah, so the drumming thing was really interesting too because I was good. I always had a good sound and touch, but I had no technique, and that's what I had to learn from the scratch when I studied with someone like Tommy Igo, who's a real top teacher. And in doing so, obviously, I learned how you hit the drum and then you feel kind of a rebound, almost like bouncing a basketball. And once you feel that, once you get to that level, you're basically the beginning of intermediate. And from there, the biggest thing for my coordination, and that coordination is, now helped with everything. Like I could never even dance. Like, look, I'm a drummer. I do stuff with my hands and then I do stuff with my feet. But, dancing is you're supposed to do the same thing with your right hand and right foot and left hand with left foot, whatever. There's a whole rhythm. But since doing the drummer DJ thing and having to jump in time and get the crowd going and get them dancing, I've had to kind of move a little bit more. And it all comes down to me practicing on a very specific set of pads. A lot of famous drummers, I found out they don't really talk about this. They don't, tell people this much. A bunch of them would set up pillows, and they would actually practice on pillows doing difficult coordination stuff, and there's no rebound. So then it's all you producing all of the stuff. So I went an extra step, and I have a kit that is literally basically multiple layers that feel like a pillow, as an actual kit. And ever since I've done that, now when I sit down, I can do this anytime. Neighbors would never complain because it's just completely silent. Um, all of my technique has skyrocketed. And now I can get tunes done and memorize tunes or whatever it is I need to do like that. Because when I sit down on a regular drum set, they actually have some feel and a bounce and everything. There's no bounce on a pillow. So I have basically almost like a pillow kit that's made of, it almost feels like mouse pads put on top of each other. They're like the drum mutes that you would use if you stick them on, but I layered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 5 layers of them. So then there's literally just nothing. It's all you. And I did the same thing with the feet. So then that's one real trick that not a lot of people know about. But Dave Weckl, Dennis Chambers have done pillow, practicing and everything. And those are the guys, those are some of the best drummers of all time too. So that's it.
Well, this is actually quite fascinating in terms of how you would perform, how you essentially get very tight deadlines and you get it together literally with a press of a button. So it's really, really cool to see how you're able to do all of that. Helpful tips for coordination for drummers, and your story as well actually makes me think, what is the future for you like? Like you mentioned setting the goal and working backwards. So what's next? What's the next steps? What are you working towards?
So look, I mean, I've been extremely fortunate to have played. Let's see, I played the Winter Olympics. I've played Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall, Royal Albert Hall, Lollapalooza, Warped Tour. I've done like tons of the world's biggest stages. I have yet to play MSG, Madison Square Garden. So I'm basically, look, I'm signed to a major label now. I'm stoked about that. They sent me their entire remix list of everything that I could remix. I picked out 40 tunes coming up that I'm able to like. I mean, some really good ones. I'm stoked about "Shout" by Tears for Fears, one of my favorite tunes. Stoked, I'm going to do something crazy with that. I've got tons and tons of my own records. I mean, "Get Tough," went viral. That's a big sports anthem. "Say Less, Be More." That's very EDM. Zombie Gorpedo, which is a hilarious tune, but it's basically a fun, spooky EDM tune, very heavy drop that got put in a movie coming up. Let's see what else. What other tracks? There's a bunch of, I mean, Something Remix already came out. That's the one I'm promoting right now. But having all of that, if you work backwards, look, has I think here's the thing. With success, this is something that we all have to agree. You have to find the truth in some stuff. If you look around in any room that you're in, right? You look around and you go like, all right, here's a mic stand. Can you or me make a mic stand from nothing right now? The answer is no. Like, I don't have metalworking skills. I don't have the ability to engineer all those little, doodads that'll make it actually stay. And a bunch of people, like, way smarter and spend a ton of time over many years to perfect this thing. And now it's a really cool thing. That's just one thing. A microphone, Jesus, there's a capsule and you got to balance everything and the whole thing. Sometimes it doesn't work, like at the beginning when we're trying to figure it out, but those are things. Other people have played Madison Square Garden sold out. A ton of people have actually done it from all walks of life, every shape and color and everything. They've done it before. So it's definitely doable. So yeah, you can go like, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He wants to play MSG. Yeah. So what do you need to do MSG? I don't know. Billy Joel has how many hits? Michael Jackson had how many hits? All right. So you have to write, I don't know. I would say if you write 100 hits and 10 pop off massively worldwide, you have enough excitement around you to at least try to do it. So the idea
Yeah.
is I'm only 7 or 8 tunes in. I think I'm 8 tunes in at this point. So I need another bunch of tunes till I hit over 100. That's step one, right? And once they're good enough and you put them out, you promote them. You get them in, podcasts and radio and TV shows and all that stuff. And the culmination of that, as long as you're seeing the numbers go up, which for me, it's been going up because I've been very calculated. Okay, Instagram needs to be this. Okay, TikTok needs to be that. All right, keep on pushing, keep on pushing. Over time, I really do feel like the fan base, as I continue doing what I'm doing, will continue to grow to the point where, look, MSG is only 20,000 people. And look, if you have, cheaper tickets, maybe they're only $50 instead of 14,000 for Taylor Swift. That's actually true.
Oh, wow.
Taylor Swift 2 tickets went for 14,000, so 7,000 each. So it's not going to be that for me. But if you have like $60 tickets or something, I'm sure that, some of my 700,000 followers will show up, from around the world. And then that's just the look. Even if I have to hand sell them, I'll figure it out. But that's my big goal, is to basically play by myself a full night at MSG, sold out, 20,000 people, and have enough hits to be able to do it. So I have to get the hits first, have to finish them, get them out, and continue to promote and market and that whole thing. And then from there, MSG, and then I haven't played the Summer Olympics. That'd be cool. And then I haven't played the Super Bowl. Like, those are the three. But MSG's first. That's New York City. That's a really big, famous venue. But that's the vibe. But I've toured. I just passed 31 countries. I just hit 31 countries the other day. I did like 10 country tour that I just got off of, and then I did a bunch of Europe last year in November. 43 US states, 250 records at this point. So I've definitely put in the time. And by putting in the time, I'll say this too, like, right out of college, I joined bands and I slept on floors, like, straight out the gate. And the only time I didn't sleep on the floor was one time we randomly begged for a room, with some random person at the show. And we came in and it was just 10 cats and cat piss everywhere. And I was like, guys, this is my line. I slept in the hot van, left the windows open. It was 90 degrees and I was sweating all night. But that was, that's where I started, put all the work in there. And now, doing what it is I'm doing, I'm coming from a place of a lot of gratefulness to just still be able to be doing what I do. but I put a lot of time, effort, and hard work in also. So it is really cool to have that be met with fan and crowd excitement, and even getting on shows like this. It's been really cool.
Share how people can find out more about you. It's been a fascinating conversation, really interesting. I appreciate you going a bit deeper in terms of how you improve and how you work on yourself as well. That was really fascinating for me. How can people find you? So I know you are on Instagram and TikTok. So how can people find you?
It's literally every single site is the same. It's Drummageddon, DRMAGDN. It should be right behind me. DRMAGDN. All one word and everything, Drummageddon. And that's Instagram, that's TikTok, that's YouTube, that's Spotify, that's Facebook, that's Twitter, which is now X. It's everywhere. But Something is the big new single. Very proud of it. It came out really, really cool. Love the Beatles, and I might even do "Here Comes the Sun," and I might do "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" next. We'll see. I'll try to skew it even younger than the 45 and 65. I'm sure there are some people who are in that demographic that did like it, but a lot of them were like, "Don't touch the Beatles." Like, all right, I won't. I already did though, so but yeah, it's all those sites and everything. But definitely check out the music videos on YouTube, and definitely stream it on Spotify, save it to your playlist and everything if you dig it. And a lot more coming. Basically, I'm constantly putting out content. I'm constantly putting out vertical videos and horizontal videos, and an entire team of people help me with the whole digital marketing aspect and everything. So it's been really cool.
Thanks so much for being a guest on the show. Those that are listening, feel free to subscribe, share the show, tell others, and also leave a review wherever you are listening into your podcasts. Drummageddon, thanks for joining me. It's been fantastic, and I look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Peace.